Welcome to Sabes Que, Did You Know? I'm your host, Jesse Bermudez on USALA Media. My co-host, Pablo Batista, will join me next week after he completes his taping engagements. Today's show is about Latin music at Edison High School. One of the high school's history is of having the most students who died in the Vietnam War, more than any other school in the city of Philadelphia. I'm a member of the American Legion Post 840 in Philadelphia, and every year we honor those students that lost their lives. It's a very, very sad history. But today on Sabes Que, you will learn about a much brighter history, one that should be documented as part of the Edison High School history. It's about Latin music. It's about Latin music education. When all of the various high schools in the city of Philadelphia had marching bands, Edison had a Latin band. My guest on Sabes Que today is that music educator that made it happen. Welcome to Mr. Kipling Mars to Sabes Que Did You Know?
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right. Kip,
Thank you, Jesse.
the last time we were together was at the Piazza in Northern Liberties. My partner is Carlos Sanchez and the founder of Siempre Salsa in New York City, Robert Bernberg, who has put Siempre Salsa Philly on the map. We honored you for your contribution to the music in front of over 1,000 people that were in attendance that evening. It was a night to remember. You came with your horn and you played with the band, and the love given to you by so many of the musicians present. Mind blowing. Kip, let's start with a little background. Where were you born, Kip? And because I want to go all the way back. We want to know everything about you.
Okay. I'd like to start off by saying I want to thank you for allowing me to explain my introduction to Latin style music at Edison High School. Well, um, my roots. I was born in Philadelphia, actually at Temple University Hospital. Was raised in Nicetown, Tioga section of the city. I attended Gillespie Junior High School and started playing music there at the age of 13. Fortunately, I came from a family of progressive parents who were looking out for my future and not just the present. Um, I heard a lot of music in the home growing up, Jesse. Much of it was actually my parents. They were part of the great generation. So we listened to a lot of jazz. I was introduced to performers like Billie Holiday, Duke Ellington, Ella Fitzgerald, amongst many others. I had a chance to listen to radio from time to time when I wasn't practicing oboe, and I heard the beginnings of rock and roll. Of course, Chuck Berry, Fats Domino, Elvis Presley, Little Richard, and the like. So that's pretty much the frame of my listening to music inside the home. Outside the home, well, I didn't listen to anything except for what I was taught in school at West Virginia High School. Started out playing oboe, um, uh, which is probably one of the most difficult instruments in the orchestra. I knew very little about music, playing any instrument, but being diligent and being very obedient and having the fortitude, I stuck with it. And as a result, it became part of my daily routine, which is practicing. Would you like to know where well, actually, in junior high school, maybe in my third year, I started playing with the All City Junior High School band, which rehearsed at girls' high school. Um, and I was basically studying with my junior high school teacher, Mary Colbert, at the time. And from there, I graduated to Germantown High School, which had a pretty decent music program. So I continued playing oboe in the orchestra at Germantown High School, the concert band, many different ensembles. So I was pretty active musically um, throughout my high school career. And of course, I played with the All City High School concert band.
Well, Kip, it sounds like you had a pretty extensive musical background then, and I can see how you would reach where you are at this point. Uh, I want for you to talk a little bit about how that whole issue of a Latin band developing at Edison High when you became that music teacher there.
Yeah, Edison High School had no music program to speak of when I started there. We had a few instruments that were working, quite a few instruments that were not functional. Uh, but being fresh out of college, I was actually 21 years old. That was my first job. Actually, and my only job. I stayed there for 35 years in that one school. So I had to work with. I started out basically with a concert band the first year, 1969. In the fall of '69, I had uh, a few students who introduced themselves to me, and we started the. I started the ball rolling with what I had to work with. We played basically at that time a lot of some concert music and little swing music, whatever the kids could play, young men could play. Of course, you know it was at that time Edison High School was an all boys school, all male school, one of the three in the city. Eventually, after the first concert I had, which was a Christmas program, um, I started talking to the students about more about what their aspirations were and what they were doing. And one student really uh, took a liking to me, and likewise, his name was Johnny Rivera. Now, Johnny Rivera comes from a long line of family of musicians. Brother Mickey Rivera and Nick Rivera, called Monguito. Uh, I noticed that Johnny was on weekends. He was always out playing in different venues. Actually, it was he invited me to come out one day, one evening, and I did so. And I was amazed at. I said, "Here, this student of mine is out playing and doing his thing. And I'm teaching school, but I would like to be out playing as well." That's what musicians do. They practice and practice the entire life, and not always to teach school, but to play out. So little by little, um, I would go out to hear him play. And one day he said, "Listen, Mars, why don't you?" I allowed him to call me Mars. So why don't you come out to rehearsal? Playing with these guys in Camden. Um, it was Carlito and Herman Cortez. They had a band called Jatu. I went out, drove over to Camden, and I was playing alto sax at the time. I just started playing alto really. Well, I had been playing around with alto sax, but I didn't really consider myself too much of a saxophone player at the time. So I did. I went over there, and lo and behold, they said, "Hey, why don't you join the ensemble?" And that was my beginning of introduction to Latin rhythms. Now, mind you, as an oboist, I only played classical music. I had no, even in my home, listening at home or in the community, I never heard Latin music performed anywhere. I'm saying, oh my God, this is something I'm missing. I, and it was like a new world of sound opening up to me. And that was really the beginning of my playing and understanding and playing Latin music, which gave me the legs to introduce Latin music into my music program at Edison.
How did you how did you recruit students for for the Latin band that you recruited? And there were quite a few students too.
Yeah, it was mostly word of mouth. I didn't have to do much recruiting once we started playing out there. Students, the word got out, and students started coming in to the program. Many of them were already had some experience in junior high school performing on their instruments. I had many percussionists and a few horn players, but we managed to always put something together. Um, and eventually, a very good Latin or salsa, we called ourselves the South Edison High School salsa band at the time, began to uh, form and play in different venues.
Well, how did you get the school to agree that these students would be in that school, playing Latin music?
Well, um, I was very lucky at Edison High School at the time. The principal was Al Glassman, uh, and one of my and John Ferreira was one of the vice principals, and they were very agreeable to pretty much anything I wanted to do. Because remember, yeah, there was nothing there at the time. The program had whatever program they had musically at Edison High School was non existent when I started. So I had a pretty much a
You had
clean
called
slate
out.
to work with. Yeah, yeah, it was great, and that's exactly what I did. I did my thing.
Well, you know what? I'm glad that it was like that because you really were able to accomplish a lot of things with those students that came through your class. Uh, there's been some conversation to me about the fact that not only did you groom this Latin band, but because you only had you were the only school that had a Latin band, then you would visit other schools. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the entire growing up in Philadelphia and the Philadelphia school system, Latin music was not taught. Um, my supervisors were pretty, and the principal, they were happy to see almost anything musically coming out of the school at the time. So they gave me, um, uh, they allowed me to just create music with the students I had on at hand.
Wow, another great opportunity for you to have accomplished what you've accomplished with these guys. Because let me tell you, there's a lot of your students who have really made it big, man, in the music world. Let me tell you, you know, it was it difficult when you were visiting these schools. I mean, and the other thing is, what is the response that you got from other schools who had no idea also that what that music was all about?
Yeah, that's very interesting. It's a good question. Um, the response was absolutely off the charts. This was like something new. This is 1969, and
Uh,
at the time, Edison High School was mostly um, black and a few Latinos were there at the time, but enough to uh, put together a credible music program. Now, to give you an example of how we were received, here I have a few acknowledgments. This one is from, you can see this, the National Association of University Women, um, acknowledging the Edison High School band. I have one here from Concilio, uh, which um, uh, which is a great tribute to the band. Pan American Association wrote, um, "We cannot thank you enough for providing us with your great music. My thanks to all the Edison High School Latin Orchestra. Because of people like you who devote their time for the better relationship between our Latin countries, we are for advance to create a unity between all of us." Sign Audrey Gallagher. Puerto Rican Festival um, as well. And there's more, but there's one here I'd like to read to the audience. Edison High Music Department has four distinct bands. Okay? The Edison Music Department, under the direction of Pip Morris, is fielding four separate and distinct bands. The Edison Rock Band, with its driving sound of hard rock, has played at the school and have planned engagements at Kensington High School. The Edison Jazz Band guarantees to make your feet stand and your hands clap. The jazz band is incorporating into the performance the smooth, mellow sound of New Orleans jazz that brings to mind the sounds heard in New Orleans Preservation Hall. The pulsating rhythm of Edison's Latin band introduced the school to the exciting sounds of salsa. Students throughout the school began to respond to the rhythm by clapping, uh, snapping fingers, and clapping hands. These three bands combined from the Edison High School stage band, which plays in the school on special occasions. The enthusiasm and efforts put forth by the various band members guarantees top flight entertainment for all of its listeners. So this is just a few of this is how we were received pretty much everywhere we performed, and we did perform throughout the entire Delaware Valley.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was
schools,
going to say.
yeah,
It sounds like it wasn't just schools; it was
no,
different nonprofit organizations and different organizations in the city. So that you were responsible, really, for opening up the doors to some of these organizations and to some of these people who probably didn't know anything about Latin music either. So the expansion was really big, and you're talking about 1969, 1970.
correct,
Man,
yes, yes.
it's like unbelievable. So you also, I guess, every now and then played with them, right? Occasionally, or you just directed them.
Well, to answer the first part of your question, yes. The school district of music department in the school district of Philadelphia had uh, they had no knowledge of Latin music, or the fact that Latin, as far as I know, I'm not sure they even knew Latin music exists. But of course, I made sure that they did. Um, in terms of performing with my students, of course, when we went out, I at that time I was playing conducting and playing piano a lot. Um, but at some point, um, of course, going back to Johnny Rivera, when I joined the band Chateau in Camden, he was the first of my students that I would actually play on stage with. Since then, of course, after some of them, many of them graduated, I continue to maintain a musical rapport with them, and actually collaborated with a few students um, in uh, Latin in the ventures. For one, Ricky Diaz had a band called La Herencia. I performed with them uh, for with his band and helped him lead the band for a little bit. I eventually played with I think I played with Panama band for like 5 years. A Su Ritmo Caliente. That was a very good band as well. Um, and eventually, I joined forces with another one of my former students, um, Anthony Silva, and eventually with Hector Lucena. The three of us led the Hector Lucena Latin Orchestra. And there have been a few others that I've performed with.
Well, Kip, did it ever occur to you at that time the impact that you were having on these students and how they would grow into these professional careers? I mean, I know you did what you did, but I mean, I'm just wondering if in your mind you were saying, hey, these guys are going somewhere.
Well, in retrospect, I was too busy making music to think much about it. But I must tell you that there have been quite a few of these my former musicians, and I want to say that these I owe them uh, uh, gratitude as well, because if it were not for them and their talent, um, I would my program would not have worked at all. Um, but there are a few of them, two of them in particular. Well, there are so many. I shouldn't really mention them, but these two, Jamal Takuma, Jamal Adin Takuma, he actually is a world renowned bassist, and he was in my first group. Pablo Pablo Vasquez, he is also a world renowned musician. I think he has his based in New York, and he's been to the Clef Club here, as a matter of fact, not too long ago to perform. Jamal Takuma, noted hip hop artists around the world. And many of the other students have their own bands. Many of them have put together their own bands. Popski, Louis Diaz. Just about all of them who
Yeah,
continue to play music.
it's,
Angel Velez. Um, the list goes on and on. I don't want to leave any of them out because all of them made a tremendous contribution to the success and actually put Edison High School on the map.
well,
Yeah.
Kip, this is why this interview is taking place because if it wasn't for you, a lot of the history that these guys have wouldn't exist. You kind of like propelled them. You gave them the confidence to know, hey man, you could do this with, and not only you could do this, but we could do this together. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, Kip, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with Sabes Que. Did you know? Welcome back to Sabes Que. Did you know? I'm your host Jesse Bermudez. We have I say we. I mean, to me, this today's interview is so important because of my involvement in Latin music and the fact to be able to be talking to somebody that really was responsible for the beginning of launching all of these guys that I've been working with for such a long time. And I'm gonna okay, we're gonna do something here. There's somebody here that may want to say a couple of words about Latin music and Mr. Kitlin Mars.
Okay, I don't know if he can hear me, but it's like that game. Can you tell who I am? Okay, I'll bring the picture in.
Oh, this is a surprise pick for you. One of your students who is the hottest trumpet player here on the Latin music scene in Philly, the young man, Angel Bellis. Your student, Kip.
Well, Angel and I have been in contact with one another, and the Angels is like his family to me. He's like a younger brother, and certainly one of the um, former students who helped propel our Latin music in Philadelphia, as well as the Edison High School band. So I want to thank Angel. And, Jesse, you have also been a very important spoke in the wheel,
Yes.
because without your presentations and without your um, interest in all of the this movement, Latin Philadelphia South. I call Philly Salsa, the Philly Salsa movement. That's your contribution. Maybe much of this would not be been brought to public attention, and this is so great. Um, and Angel, I think, will agree with me 100%, as well as other many of my other former students that you have also helped us to maintain, um, shine a light on Philly Salsa.
Well,
Yes.
thank you for those kind words. And I guess, Kip, you're 100% right, because that's why we're doing this interview. This is why I want the folks to know how this whole Philly music scene happened and how instrumental you were to the birth of this. It was almost like you gave birth to it, and then I came along later and I added whatever it is that I could. But we're still doing things together, you and I. And Angel, I'm gonna let you talk a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Because you got a lot of that history.
First of all, I want to thank you, Jesse, for having me be a part of this. When you called me, I was like, how can I say no to being a part of something that Kip Morris is a part of? Kip is part of my life, not just musically, but as he said, like a brotherhood. And my wife and I have stayed together. Well, we when we first met, I had an opportunity to um, be with her or um, venture out into the world. And I went to Kip for some advice, and Kip told me, he said, if you're going to have a solid woman next to you, uh, that's the best way to make it out there. And that kept me together with my wife. My wife and I have been together since 1975, and we dated for 6 years, and we engaged for 1 year, and we've been married for the rest of the time. It'll be 40 years. June 27th will be 40 years of marriage. So Kip played a big part in that, and every time I see him, I have to sneak that in there, you know. But musically, Kip has he has laid out um, so much of himself to for these students to be able to do what they did, and um, for myself, I don't think my parents would have been too happy to find out, but I spent all my classes in Kip's music. He couldn't throw me out enough time.
Uh,
He could tell, you have to go to class, Angel, and I tell them, "Oh, please let me stay." And I need to learn some more, and that was it. I would go to homeroom, and the rest of the classes were upstairs. You want to find me? Go upstairs to the music room. That's where I am.
Thank you, Angel. I'm very proud of you, and you're absolutely right. And I'm proud of all of you guys who are part of the Edison High School Latin band and other the music program in general, the experience that we had, and certainly right is worthy of documentation because times change, students come and go, and generations come and go. I was there for 35 years, so I actually at Edison retired during the second generation of students who I even had some students who parents were in my program. So it's very rewarding to me to be able to have you on this interview. Um, so thank you very much.
Well, Kip, this interview is so important because without this, where would the documentation be to this particular history?
Correct.
It would be gone. I mean, well, in a sense, people wouldn't even know that it existed. Sabes Que is making sure that this history exists, not only for the musicians and the artists, but also for the school. Uh, so folks could know that there were some great things that came out of Edison School, and this was one of them. Now, Angel, would you by any chance have any other, like, say, surprises or things that you might want to let
Well,
us all know?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Kip. Um, I don't know if he heard. I know he heard the concert, but I don't know if he's heard it lately. We brought some music, Kip, that you would really appreciate. This was for me, one of the biggest things. And I've done stuff musically out in the world, but this was one of the first I felt great accomplishments. And reason was that during those times, like you said, Latin music was in the heart of Philadelphia amongst the Latinos. Any place out of that, no one knew. And this concert uh, opened the eyes of a lot of the schools in the district. And that day, I must say that the band put on a great show, great performance.
Hmm.
And I actually gave Jesse and the engineer here some of the music so that you can go back and reminisce with all of us.
You mean you actually have a live recording of some of this stuff?
That's right.
Wow. Wow.
We know you'd be
I,
excited about that.
I knew someone would have something somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
I figured Carlos Sanchez would be the one to have it, but
Actually, you know who had?
Angels is a possession of it. So it
Yeah,
couldn't be in better hands.
Felix Perez actually
Yeah.
forwarded it to me.
Oh, great.
Yes, and
How's
Felix,
Felix doing?
he's doing very well. He
Good.
was that whole program also.
Oh my, asked about it. He's another spoke in the wheel.
Yes,
All of you guys made that wagon train run.
yes.
All of you.
When our engineer prepares, then Kip, it won't just be a conversation. It'll take you right back to memory lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically one other thing. That is, you know, um, when I started teaching at Edison High School and started playing around in the community, I really felt like I was home. The people, during that time, the 60s, 70s, and 80s, like community in Philadelphia was mostly Boricua. Sometimes I would say, Moreno soy, pero Boricua mi corazón.
Mhm.
The people made me feel like I was one of them. I felt like at home everywhere. I never had a bad experience within in all my travels within the community. So I feel like another Philadelphia Boricua.
Mhm.
I hear you, Mr. Boricua. And I think the engineer is working on getting that up for us so that you can hear. I want to hear it too. And I just, while he's doing that, I want to say that I interviewed Pablo Vasquez, I interviewed Edgar Joel. All those guys mentioned you, Kip. All
Yeah.
those guys. And Papo is, there's not a person in the world of Latin music that Papo hasn't performed with. And,
Yeah.
And Edgar is now celebrating about 30 years, and he has quite a few recordings. And those guys, hey, they love you, man. They like, yo, Kid Mars, yeah, yeah. And they tell a little story how they used to get to you. Okay. Kip, don't go nowhere because here we're gonna do this now. Okay, Mr. Engineer, roll it, my brother. There, right?
Wow. You mean I was part of this great sounding band?
Yeah. They were students.
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
35 years and dozens, hundreds of students and hundreds of performances. It does me my heart. I mean, thank you so much for pulling that up.
Yeah, but wait, that's not all, Kip. We got some more stuff coming up.
Oh,
right,
really?
Don't we have something else coming up, Angel?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, when the engineer is ready, he can let it go. This will really take you to memory lane.
Oye, ¿y qué es ese gato que está rondeando por ahí, ah? Take that cat, man. ¡Cógelo, cógelo! ¡Ave María, con salsa! your pencil and go to the school. Woo! La vida se tiene que tener un poder. En la vida se tiene que tener un poder. En la vida le quiere vivir.
Tell you, this is
Let's see if we can bring them pictures back up.
well, I got some of them right here. This is a one of the snapshots from Edison High School. Obviously, you're not going to be able to see. Let me see.
Yeah, it's a little difficult to see.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, yeah, right to the to my left. Yeah, but anyway, this is I'm very happy to be part of this interview with the two of you. It does my heart well. This is great. This is good stuff.
Well,
And
Kip,
thank you very much.
Kip, the idea is that we don't want anybody to forget you. We don't want anybody to forget your contribution to Latin music, especially Angel mentioned something, and he said that the music was just, in the Latino community at that time when you did what you were doing. Then, because of what you did, it started to branch out all over.
Yes.
And that's so important because if you can't listen to a music, you can't appreciate it, you can't understand it, it just doesn't exist. It's like anything else. And so the result of you being able to do what you did, and you did it from the bottom of your heart because you enjoyed doing it. You're a musician. You love to play with them. And you also, because of being a musical director and understanding the music, you knew how to put them in place. You knew what to tell them what to do and when to do it and how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so important, Kip. So
Yeah, I had lots of great tutors throughout my throughout junior high school, and at the Temple University. Of course, I studied with oboe. That was my main instrument, oboe, with Louis Rosenblatt, who the orchestra. So there's not one form of music or band that I haven't before. Well, maybe no. With Latin music has been one of my favorites now. Is I've played every style of music, and the experiences I've had with great teachers throughout my career have helped me to appreciate all kinds of music. And the other thing I always want to people to know is that exposure to different forms of music is, and this is what we did a lot. We didn't. Angel will tell you that we had swing bands. We had some pretty good swing bands as well as the Latin orchestra. We had rock bands, and they were all exposed to all different genres of music. Um, so exposure is really a very important factor in appreciating the art form of music.
yeah, well,
And
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Kip, but I think that the point I'm going to make is very important, and that is the fact that when you came into Latin music, you had to learn the clave in other forms of music. So,
yes,
that's pretty big there, man. Because
yeah,
if you don't learn the clave, you can't play the music.
interesting. Very good point. Good point. In classical music, everything's written is in a written form for the most part. Everything's straight up and down. Um, jazz and swing music has some syncopation in it, but not a clave that one would find in Latin music. And actually, my first hearing of Latin music was you guys probably are aware of this as well. Dizzy Gillespie band, and when they featured China Pozo, I think for Americans this was probably the very first a nationwide exposure that we had with somewhat of a Latin style music. Dizzy Gillespie and his and China Pozo, Afro-Cuban sound. Um, so that was probably my first listening. I didn't even know what it was at the time, but I soon found out that it was a music that I would come to love very much.
You know, Kip, it's been wonderful speaking to you, but we have another surprise student for you. And this surprise student is the guy who is a tech engineer here at USALA Media. And his name is, he was your student, Daniel Ramos.
Hello, Mr. Kip Morris. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yes. I was your student from 93 to 97.
oh, you
Um,
didn't know? No, okay,
so
all right,
I was there the last bit of students that you had at New Edison actually. You
really.
guys moved from the old Edison to the new Edison, and yeah, you was my teacher. You was I was a flautist. I used to play flute, and you taught me how to play flute. And
Oh,
Oh, see that, Kip?
yeah.
Bet you
Wow.
didn't know that. You didn't remember that.
No, I
yeah,
didn't.
and
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
Angel, I would spend.
Thank you for joining the interview,
Yeah, no problem.
Daniel.
Yeah, and just like Angel, I would spend all my time in the music room. Don't tell my mother, but I was there. I was living there, and I had an excuse, and I won't tell. The little secrets that you and I had, where you used to give me a note to give to my teacher, and just to go to the. But we won't mention that on air.
Well, yes, yes. I had a system. There's a little politics involved, as you all know. Every organization has little politics involved, so I pull a few strings. But because we had a successful program, it made it easier to pull those strings because I think the ambassador of music, and of course, the Edison High School band has always been probably the greatest ambassador for Edison High School. Now we know about the Vietnam War celebrations that they have had every year. I assume they are still having them
Yes, they
because we
do.
lost more. Yeah, we lost more students in the entire country to the Vietnam War. One little school in North Philadelphia. Um, but the band,
But one school in Philadelphia gave birth to all of these great artists that we have now in our world of music.
it's amazing. It's amazing. There's so much talent, and I love all of my former students, and I appreciate the efforts that they've made. And I also congratulate them on their success in this idiom. And it wasn't all just salsa. Many of my students played. They can play. I helped them along with it. Were exposed to all different styles of music and able to play not only salsa but other styles as well. Angel's one of those guys. Angel can play just about anything.
Well, you know what, Kip? It's certainly been a pleasure. And for me, it's been an honor to be able to have this interview with you, to be able to, because in my mind for a long time, I'm one of those guys that thinks about history and how we're going to lose it if we don't do something about it. And this was one of those, parts of the history that I wanted to make sure that somehow or another, in some kind of way, it was documented. And I want to thank Angel Bellis. I also want to thank Danielle, and I want to thank you for making this particular interview happen.
Daniel, are you still playing flute?
Actually, yeah, actually I do. Play with a couple of people. Well, it's funny because I started playing with all these like Foto Rodriguez, Pupi La Gareta. I was playing with David Colon, with Elvis Bonilla. I got one time I had the honor to play with the Canario. So yeah, I still play around here and there. I don't take it as serious because now I do video editing. But the funny thing is, I take my video editing and I edit it like if I'm editing music, which is basically the same thing. So
Great,
yes,
great.
Fantastic.
Well, I'd love to get together with you and Angel
This is
for a little chat in person at some time in the near future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
sounds
this is
good.
what this is what I'm going to when I'm done the interview here. Practice, practice, practice all day
well,
long.
Well, you was the one that taught us that. You always said,
Yeah.
the three most important things is practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
yeah, it's almost like we heard the joke of the visitor to New York City uh, stops someone on the street and says, "How do I get to Carnegie Hall?"
Mhm.
And the New Yorker says, "Practice, practice,
Yeah.
practice."
That's
That's
it.
it. And I
Yep.
still practice. I do
Yep.
most of my practicing just about every evening, just to
Mhm.
keep my chops up because I'm still playing, believe it or not. As long as
Mhm.
my chops hold up, I think I'll continue to play.
Yeah.
By the way, let
Well,
me tell you this: you still look the same. You
Yeah, I
have
know.
not changed.
yeah. Guys, it's definitely been a wonderful hour that we've spent together, and I want to once again thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Kit, for all that you have done. And I'd like to say, Sabes Que? Did you know? Now people know about Kit Morris and Edison High School. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you. It's been
guys.
my pleasure.
Thank you.